Hi everyone, it's Yulia back. Today we are going to talk about one of the principles of BA Mindset, which is that it is your responsibility as a business analyst to create a shared understanding of requirements among all stakeholders. What does it mean? It means that as you analyze, capture, and document requirements for the future solution, it is just part of your job. The other part of your job is to make sure that everyone involved in this project, in building this solution and using it, has the same understanding of those requirements. So your business stakeholders, your design team, your delivery team, the testing team, and even change management, that there is that shared understanding. Now, how do you achieve it? Because again, it is your responsibility to facilitate it, to make it possible. You achieve it by using different techniques and different ways of delivering information, different ways of capturing and depicting business requirements. And this is where rich requirements come in. What does it mean, rich requirements? What it means is that you supplement the text, the language, by different deliverables. And imagine whether you're creating a business requirements document or a set of user stories, most of the information is still captured through text, natural language or structured language, but there is always a potential for misinterpretation with language. And there is always potential that someone will be reading through the details without seeing the big picture. So what do you do in addition? You have to think about how you structure that big set of requirements that relate to your solution. So you're thinking, first of all, about ways of creating like a hierarchy of your solution, your product. That could be done either through creating a hierarchy of epics, themes, and user stories. It could be achieved through creating a user story map or multiple user story maps, one for each separate user journey. You may be creating product breakdown structure or feature tree. So there's more than one way to depict the structure of the solution. You have to create diagrams, so visuals that supplement and support your requirements. For example, you may need to create a process map or multiple process maps, because requirement statements and user stories can be quite granular. One user story can just be related to one activity in the process map, or even one variation of that activity. And without having that big picture, it's pretty hard to understand how things fit together. So imagine you have a high-level process map and maybe below that a couple of more detailed process maps, maybe for separate sub-processes. And then your user stories can be linked to those process maps. So perhaps you have 10 user stories that just capture different variations of this activity. Or if your process map includes a decision point, so a diamond, a condition, maybe you even have a little decision table that actually captures all the possible variations of decisions that will happen at that point. So these visuals and these additional artifacts are necessary to connect your user stories together, to connect different sprints and functionality of those sprints together, or to give you that big picture of your solution. So what can be done as part of rich requirements? So any type of a process map, and then you relate to that process map and link to it from specific requirements user stories. You can create a business use case diagram, and that also gives you a way of breaking down your solution, and then perhaps your different themes will be linked to different business use cases, and your personas will be captured as the actors there. And then again, you can focus, for example, for 3 sprints, we are working on this one business use case. Sometimes you need to create storyboards and wireframes or screen mockups when your solution has a user interface component and it needs a bit of a design, or with a storyboard, it needs to have a bit of a flow that you want to run by your stakeholders. For example, what can be a possible flow through different screens of this app that makes sense to your customer? So that could be done as a storyboard. And again, that storyboard becomes a foundation for you to develop more detailed requirements and user stories. You may be creating a user access matrix to depict what different types of users will have access to, what types of data, what types of functionality. If you're working on a workflow, on requirements for a workflow, that might have a lot of scenarios. So a scenario matrix can work. And then again, you will have multiple requirements or user stories just linked to each scenario, or even different conditions in that scenario. And by the way, if you do create a scenario matrix, that is a great foundation for you to develop test scenarios. What other deliverables can support rich requirements? It really depends, of course, on the type of the solution. In some cases, a state transition diagram can be very helpful. For example, you are working on a workflow of customer orders, and those orders have different states, and perhaps the logic starts to get complicated. State transition diagram can help you how the order can move from one order to another. Sometimes you even create a little org chart, not necessarily for the organization, but for any type of locational hierarchy or product hierarchy, and it helps you to see that visually. You might need to provide some data mapping as a support, because again, user stories are very user-centric. They can't necessarily capture everything, or sometimes it just sounds very unnatural. So things like data mapping, reporting requirements, filtering requirements, and so on may actually benefit from being depicted in a different way. The bottom line is, wherever you have your text list of things, you can supplement it by visuals, by structured deliverables that help you see how things are connected, how things are related, how one group of user stories relates to another, where do they meet, do they belong to the same user journey or different user journeys, and all of those ways to enrich your requirements, again, they serve creating that shared understanding. If I read this user story and I don't quite get it, how it fits in, if it provides me with a link to scenario matrix, I understand, that's this particular scenario. What about another scenario? Let me look at the user stories related to that. And that linkage will even help me find if I have some gaps in my user stories. Perhaps my backlog, I thought I was done with this particular set of scenarios, but through this cross-linking with the scenario matrix, I may find a gap. I may find that one or two or three variations of a scenario got missed. It's much easier to miss things when we just list and list and list one requirement after another, one sentence after another, and that matrix, or any time where we compare information, we create matrices or tables, really help us to validate completeness of that. So I'll provide links to some of these examples that I mentioned in the comments below. I do have templates to share, and I have more videos where I focus on how to create specific diagrams, for example, or other deliverables. If you want more practice, join our BA Mindset Mentorship Circle. There we practice together. For example, we might do a case study on how to create a user story map, or how to create a business use case diagram, or how to build a decision table. And you can practice with us. And remember that when you present information in more than one way, there is a much higher chance that your audience will understand it, and that you will be able to create that shared understanding of requirements. This is it for today. See you next time.